It's everything you've got. Taking a break from all your worries sure would help a lot. Wouldn't you like to get away? Sometimes you wanna go where everybody knows.
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, the Cheers theme played in remembrance of the great George Wendt, who played Norm Peterson, who passed away at the age of 76. Norm Peterson is famous for his Normisms, his greetings. Life is a dog eat dog world, and I'm wearing milk bone underwear. The great George Wendt, gone sadly at the age of 76. Welcome to another edition of Student Body Right. I'm your host, Ryan Neff. Coming up at 7:30. Let me get it right. I don't want to screw it up. Mr. Tim Fitzgerald, on the Twitter machine, the X, the Y, the Z, whatever it is, at Life of Fitz. He has on here the musings of Tim Fitzgerald, sports writer, OG podcaster, YouTube host, dog lover, and cancer warrior. Hashtag Forward We Go, publisher of at PowerCat on at 24/7 Sports. He will come on hopefully at 7:30. Before he comes on, though, we talk about Kansas State football. A couple of things to go through in the world of college football. The ACC, well, I think I already went over this. The distribution of $45 million per school in the 23-24 seasons. That's a lot of money, ladies and gentlemen. $45 million per school. Xavier Griffin, who was number 29 recruit for 2026, has decommitted from USC. He's a 6'4", 205-pound defender from Gainesville, Georgia. He had been pledged to the Trojans since July of 2024. Now he has decommitted. So Lincoln Riley losing recruits now. Not going to go any more Bill Belichick stuff because it's like a soap opera. Anyway. The University of Maryland has hired Braves executive Jim Smith as their athletic director. Trying to look over the specifics. None given. Illinois has extended the football contract of Brett Bielema and men's hoops coach Mr. Underwood. Brad Underwood. Bielema's deal runs through 2030, while Underwood is locked through the 2030-31 season. The contracts are pending approval by the University Board of Trustees tomorrow. Bielema's annual salary would begin at $7.7 million, while Underwood's would start at $4.4 million. It says here both coaches would be eligible for 4 one-year extensions if performance benchmarks are met, as well as annual retention incentives starting next July 1st. Bielema, the retention incentives would start at $700,000 and increase each year. For Underwood, they would begin at $1.15 million. It'd be interesting to see how Illinois does this year. Other than Penn State and Ohio State. see how Illinois stacks up. They were 10-4 last year. 10-3. I'm sorry. I remember they beat South Carolina in Citrus Bowl. And I did not know this, so I had to research this as I'm looking at it here. They became just the fifth team in the program's 133 years to reach double-digit victories, which I did not know that. Again, they return a lot of people. Again, it'll be very interesting to see they do in the Big Ten because everybody's going to be on Penn State, Michigan, Ohio State, maybe Iowa. Before Mr. Fitzgerald comes on, I found this interesting. ESPN came up with their top makers for the 2025 season, non-quarterbacks. Jeremiah Smith, Ohio State wide receiver. Could be a Heisman Trophy candidate if all works out. Danny Dennis Sutton, Penn State defensive end. Shadows, Mr. Jabari. Ryan Williams, wide receiver, Alabama. Dylan Stewart, Ed, South Carolina, good player. Caleb Downs, safety, Ohio State, who's all over the field, by the way. Jeremiah Love, running back, Notre Dame. Very good running back. Although he does have a bit of a durability issue. He does tend to get hurt. Anthony Hill, Jr., linebacker, Texas. 6'3", 237 pounds. Again, another guy that's all over the field. Le'Veon Moss, running back, Texas A&M. Of course, he got hurt last year. Would have been interesting to see what he could have done had he not gotten hurt. T.J. Parker, defensive end, and Peter Woods, defensive tackle for Clemson. Saw them play last year. Clemson's defense really needs to improve then to take a step forward. Josh Cameron, wide receiver, Baylor Bears. This is all according to ESPN. Decent little receiver. Little, he's 6'1", almost 220. But in the Baylor scheme of things, not bad. R. Mason Thomas, defensive end, Oklahoma. Good player. Chandler Rivers, cornerback, Duke Blue Devils, kind of on the smaller side. But again, he's one that's all over the field. Running backs, Nicholas Singleton and Katron Allen. Both ran for over 1,000 yards last year. Penn State will be one of my favorites, barring any injuries going into the fall, to win the national title, by the way. It's a hell of a 1-2 punch. Jacob Rodriguez, linebacker, Texas Tech. Very good player. Again, could all over the field. Gabe Jacques, outside linebacker, Illinois. 6'3", 275-pound linebacker. Just huge. Damon Claiborne, running back, Wake Forest, 1,000-yard rusher last year. See what kind of damage he does in the ACC. Max Clare, tight end, Ohio State. Remember, he played at Purdue last year as a transfer. See what kind of impact he has for the Buckeyes. Isaac Brown, running back, Louisville, 1,000-yard rusher last year. Certainly don't put any stock in that 1,000 yards anymore. Drake Bowen, linebacker, Notre Dame. One of those tweener types. He's 6'2", 238, but you can move him around defensively. Caleb Banks, defensive tackle, Florida Gators, 6'6", 329 pounds. It's a beast. Absolute beast. We'll see. You can just plug him in the middle. Big time space eater. Mateo Uyunglele, DJ's younger brother from Oregon. And there are some others on here. But I see him in the green room. That would be Mr. Tim Fitzgerald. As I do with all my guests, I have to give a proper introduction. If people don't know, don't follow college football like religion like I do. This is the Kansas State Wildcats fight song, ladies and gentlemen. I play all the fight songs for all my guests. First set school. Let's bring him on. There he is, Mr. Tim Fitzgerald. Tim, how you doing? Can you hear me?
I'm good, brother. How are you?
Good. How are you? Thanks for coming on. Let's just delve into it here.
Yep.
I know Kansas State did not have a spring game, correct?
No, they don't play them.
That's what I thought. Okay. So we looked to last year. I thought there were a couple of games where, it could have make or break their season, and it did. Yep. When I went back and took a look at the stats from last year, Tim, really offensively they were okay, but on the defensive end, especially in the secondary, they were sort of iffy a little bit.
At times, yeah. They had games where they were pretty bad on the back end of that defense, including early in the season at Tulane, later in the season in Houston, which was kind of the game that broke their back in many ways. A loss on the road, a game they should have won, but they just made too many mistakes, and it cost them dearly, and they went on a late season skid after getting off to a pretty good start.
I had to go back and take a look at the stats here. I mean, offensively, especially running the football, they weren't bad at all.
No.
It seemed to be the strength. They seemed to be the strength of the offense. Passing showed flashes a little bit. Where do you think they would need to improve offensively going into the summer and fall camp?
Well, they have to get better at receiver to start with. That was a big problem with the passing game. They had some guys that came in through the portal that just didn't turn into the type of players they expected. So they're trying again this season with 3 new receivers out of the portal. It's a room that they just haven't built up properly, and they're trying to get that portal boost out of it. They think they've done it. We will see. And also, I don't think the offensive tackles did a great job protecting Avery Johnson last year. He's incredibly elusive. So the sack numbers don't indicate that, but he was moving around quite a bit, running for his life. And for a first-year starting quarterback, that isn't ideal. So they went out and they found receivers, and they found a slew of offensive linemen. They took 4 out of the portal. About half of their players they took out of the portal this offseason were offensive linemen and receivers. And if they get better at those areas, and quarterback Avery Johnson delivers the ball with more confidence, which he should have in year 2, I think they're going to be better in the passing game. And they have to get there because a big part of that running game, DJ Giddens, is now with the Indianapolis Colts.
How would you grade Avery's first year? I know he obviously beat out Will Howard. Obviously, Will Howard saw what was coming.
Yep.
Decided to transfer. At times last year, I thought he looked fantastic, and there was other times I thought he looked like it was a deer in a headlight.
You nailed it. You absolutely nailed it. And a lot of those times the deer in the headlight was in passing situations when defenses gave him something new and something unexpected, and he stumbled over it. Maybe his biggest problem during the season was in that huge win at Colorado, he got dinged up, and it held him out of the running game for about 4 games, maybe 5. And that's a big loss for the K-State offense because Avery Johnson is a legitimate 4-3 type of guy. And when he's healthy and turns on the Jets, we saw it at the Rape Bowl against in the game against Rutgers. When he gets free, he's awfully hard. But you take that away from him, and he turns into a different quarterback. He is not a pocket passer, and that's how they had to use him quite a bit last year. He'd rather pass rolling out on the move and have his run threat part of it. But when you're dinged up, it will limit what you can do.
Key losses I have here. Obviously, Eric Singleton is gone. Jackson Hawes.
Hold on, you're on the wrong team. You're on the wrong team.
Oh, am I?
Yep. None of those players familiar.
It says Kansas State here. Hold on. Give me just a second. Well, I'll pick your brain now. Yeah, I'll pick your brain. Who are the key losses? Who are the gains in the portal?
Well, you mentioned the secondary having problems, and that's where 2 of the key losses are. Jacob Parrish went in the 3rd round as a corner, really fast kid. Really grew as he was one of those developmental players for Kansas State that came in as someone that didn't have a lot of offers and played his true freshman year and played right on through. And that's a big loss. Marquise Siegel at safety was kind of their leader on the back end, but honestly, he had some issues. He was good enough to go in the 5th round to the Saints, I believe it was. And you know what? I wish him luck, but they went out in the portal. They found some guys, including Gunnar Maldonado coming in from Arizona, where he was hurt. He's been rehabbing, but he kind of gives them the heady guy on the back end of the defense they really need. And they've got some young corners. The corners had to play in the bowl game. And honestly, they were better than the guys had been during the year. Maybe it was the opponent. I don't know, but they were really good. They have brought in some guys on the back end of the defense, but they feel like they've matured some players into some really good roles. And those are the biggest losses on defense, including Austin Moore at linebacker, but they got some guys they feel good about, including Ohio State transfer there. As I mentioned, they brought in 4 guys on the line, 4 guys on the line. It was actually 5, 1 washed out in spring football and transferred again, and those receivers. But losing DJ Giddens and running back, that was a core of what they did. He was so good between the tackles. Now the running game is going to have to change without him. And the other losses, they were receivers that moved on, but they returned their entire tight end room where they've been excellent, and Jace Brown at receiver, who's their top guy. So the losses weren't enormous, but the additions seem to have really helped this team.
So on the defensive side of the ball, it seemed like for the most part they were middle pack. But like you said before about the secondary, sometimes in games last year, I thought the secondary did their job. And then there's other games that I watched where they were like, they look confused. They look clueless.
They're clueless.
Yeah. So I would think if they can just improve, they don't have to be a top 10, obviously, but if they can just improve on the back end defensively, shore up that secondary, that they're going to be in a lot of games.
Brian, their biggest problem was zone defense. It would seem to me that zone defense is easy. You cover this area, anyone comes through here, but they got into that thing that drives me crazy when you're covering a piece of real estate instead of the guys near you. But when they were man, they were pretty good. They'd run with people. They're fast on the back end. So getting better in zone coverage, which is often necessary in a league with running quarterbacks, so you can keep an eye on them. That will help them tremendously because, as you mentioned, that Tulane game is a perfect example. And when they were in zone, they simply weren't in the right place doing the right thing at the right time way too often, and it was rather sad looking. But when they were good, they were pretty good. It was rather confounding. Yeah,
because when I go back and take a look at last year's schedule and some games slip my mind. Obviously, they started off 3-0. They run into a buzzsaw at BYU.
Yeah. Wrong
Oklahoma,
from the get-go.
Yeah. Oklahoma State, let's face it, after the 3-0 start by Oklahoma State, they fell off the mat. I don't know how Gundy is still there, but that's
Fired
a
everyone.
discussion for another. Yeah. Colorado, I thought was a big win.
Yep.
They hammered West Virginia. Eke by against Kansas. They're at Houston, which inexplicably to me, they lose. They ran into a buzzsaw with Arizona State. Cincinnati, they win at Iowa State. Obviously, Iowa State and Arizona State played for the title. And then the Rutgers game, which was basically it was a tennis match. It was back and forth and back and forth.
Yep.
When you take a look back at last season, like you said, the make or break was sort of the Houston game. They can't lose those types of games this year.
No. And you know what? That's been a trait of Chris Kleiman teams. A few years ago, the Big 12 championship season, they lost at home to Tulane. And that kind of knocked them off course of what they could have done that season. They ended up beating TCU in the title game, but they've had one of those games almost every season. And that, if K-State wants to be what it can be in the Big 12, which is a program that is at or near the top every year, you can't lose those. Houston, they had 2 dropped snaps by holders in that game on field goals, and different holders. And they were very consistent. I'll give them that. There was a consistency to the holders' performance. It sucked, but it was still consistent. And they also then attempted deep in their territory with a lead to throw the ball in the rain, which ended up being picked off and led to the losing touchdown. So it was just one of those days when you're watching the game and you're thinking, both players and coaches, what are you doing here? And they messed around and they found out. It's not quite how that phrase goes, but close enough.
So then let's look. I don't like to make predictions this early, but I'm looking at the 2025 schedule. It's not easy.
Nope.
Obviously, they'll open up with Iowa State in Dublin. NCAA, please stop playing games overseas. It's not fair to the players. That's just my personal opinion.
Not fair to my budget.
North Dakota is not going to be easy.
Nope.
Army, we don't know what we're going to get. Army's last year at Arizona, which I think should be a win. Then they get the bye week. UCF will be tough. At Baylor will be tough. TCU, at Kansas.
And it's going to be tough.
Yeah. Texas Tech, tough.
Yep.
At Oklahoma State, we don't know what we're getting with Oklahoma State. At Utah, Cameron Rising is retired from playing 10 years.
We have no idea what we're getting from Utah.
Utah, Colorado, there's no Travis Hunter anymore, and there's no Shador. So when you look at the schedule for 2025, what games have you circled that you would say to yourself, this game's going to make or break, this game's going to make or break? I can point to 2, Iowa State,
yep,
and Texas Tech.
You got it. Iowa State, that game's huge for both Iowa State and Kansas State. Not that losing week 1 in Dublin or week 0, you can't recover from that, but it puts you down a game to a team that is also going to be fighting for the Big 12 championship, or at least appearance in it. Look, Ryan, I wouldn't be surprised if we get to the end of the season and it's Kansas State and Iowa State all over again. But that game is huge. And of course, as you mentioned, Texas Tech, that one of the big unknowns in college football. They've gone into the portal. Did they spend wisely? If they did, they're going to be a beast.
I still have to see it on the field.
Yeah, that's where I am.
You know what I mean? I just, we can talk about I hate the transfer portal. I hate NIL. But until I see a finished product on the field,
I agree.
Look, we don't know what Texas Tech is going to be like. It's the first week in November. But a couple other games I was taking a look at here. Like you said, Kansas is going to be tough. And then the other one that I had circled a little bit, although it's not a conference game, is Army. Army coming off a fantastic year. Granted, it's in Bill Snyder Family Stadium. But look, you know what you're going to get with Army. You know what they're going to do. they're not going to throw the ball. Will Kansas State's defense in that particular game be up to the task, if you know what I mean? So
It's a great question. And keep this in mind. They go to Dublin and they come back and play the next Saturday against a North Dakota team that struggled last year some, but Kaz played some pretty good football. And then you play Army, which is a total outlier in terms of the type of offensive football they play. So you have to be ready for that. And it's a big game for Kansas State. There's a major base right here, just adjacent, 20 minutes away, Fort Riley. They've been trying to get Army in. So it's kind of a big game for the community because there's a lot of Army-associated people in Manhattan. And then you go to Arizona in that final non-conference game, which I hate. Look, they had this schedule before. They decided, let's just play it as non-conference, and it stinks. It just does.
I have to pick your brain about this because I'm an old school hat. I'm an old fuddy-duddy. I like the way it used to be, like way back when. But you're around. You're in the thick of it in the Big 12. What do you hear from administrators, ADs, presidents, coaches about NIL, about the transfer portal? I know some coaches are sick of it. Some ADs are sick of it. There's no cap on anything. Where is this all headed as far as you're concerned, like especially within the Big 12?
Done a lot of shows on this on our Big 12 Insiders channel, and it's something that, if gone unchecked, will bury the Big 12 because it'll bury some schools that are in the SEC and particularly the Big 10 that don't have the money to keep up. But it is what it is. And until we get, I hate to say this because I'm usually opposed to this, get Congress involved and get some stuff on the books, maybe a little antitrust legislation here. And that's the only way it's going to be sorted out because there's this new thing. I don't know if you saw it from Ross Dellinger where they're trying to get every school through their conference to sign on to basically a loyalty pledge that they won't. It came out of the state of Tennessee saying you don't have to follow any of the settlement rules. This is just nonsense what they're trying to do. It won't hold up in court. It'll just lead to another court case that they'll get tossed with. The courts have been very clear. You've got to let the players have a voice. And until you get to that, you're going to keep losing these court cases, and college sports are going to continue to spin out of control. It sucks where we're at. But the biggest issue is a lot of parties in the SEC and Big Ten want to go further with this until we're literally playing professional football in college. And I think most of us, I'm an old fuddy-duddy too. I'd rather go back, but I also know this. A university shouldn't own a player's name, image, and likeness. And if we can get it to that instead of pay for play, I'm fine. I'm good.
Yeah, I hate talking about it. I can't stand it. I still love college football because of the pageantry, the rivalries. I love everything about it. It's just the outside stuff that I can't stand. Before I let you go here, I was looking over your X, the tweet, whatever they call it now.
Yep.
Cancer warrior.
Yeah.
Talk to me a little bit about that.
Well, it's kind of timely here. I'm metastatic stage 4 prostate cancer. I don't know if you heard there's someone else that just announced it that way. So that happened in 2018. I was given life expectancy of 6 years, which meant I wouldn't see age 60. I saw that last summer. I'm about ready to turn June 1, 61. I've been greatly fortunate. I've been blessed by a great medical team, a lot of prayer, a lot of good vibes. And I believe in laughing at cancer because cancer hates joy. And I've got an incredible team. This is my advice. Anyone going through cancer or any other medical ailment, you're the GM of your cancer team. You pick the coach, you pick the team members. And if you got someone who's not positive, family member, I don't care. You set them aside. They're not on your team. You limit your interaction with them. You got to keep everything positive, and that's been a blessing for me. But just keep chugging forward. And when I start my Life of Fitz podcast up, which grew out of the cancer and the pandemic.
God bless you, my friend. Thoughts and prayers.
Thank you.
Your way every day. Ladies and gentlemen, that's Tim Fitzgerald. Covers Kansas State Wildcats at Go Power Cat at 24/7 Sports. #forward we go. I will be doing my second annual college football preseason special sometime in August. I don't know when yet. I will be sending you an invitation, my friend, to come back on because we talk Kansas State and the Big 12's upcoming season.
Well, if it's in mid-August, I have been forced against my will to go to Ireland, the land of my peoples,
Okay.
for a week. So I'll be over there the whole week leading up to the game. But dang it, Ryan, I got to get back as soon as possible because I got another game to cover the next week. My old body
right.
don't like that at all. But
August
if I
30th,
can't do it, one of my guys will.
Okay. I appreciate it, Tim. Thanks so much for coming on.
Ryan, anytime, buddy.
All right, buddy. Take care. Ladies and gentlemen, that's Tim Fitzgerald. Some technical difficulties. It seemed like it was doing okay on my end, but he was freezing a lot for some reason. I don't know why. Again, with the Big 12, I think it's going to come down to the same players. I think Colorado will take a step back just because Shedeur and Travis Hunter are not there anymore. You look at BYU, will probably still be tough. Iowa State, how are they going to bounce back? Or how are they going to look, after their run last year? Iowa State, Arizona State, BYU, Kansas State should be there. I still need to see it from teams like a Texas Tech. And here we go. I'll bring them up. I'll just bring up, and I hate making predictions, and I'm not going to make predictions until way later on. Excuse me. So when you look at last year, how's Arizona State going to be minus Scatabo and some other players? How's Iowa State going to be? Both those teams went 11-3 overall last year. BYU was 11-2 last year. How will they retool? Colorado, I think, takes a step back because of the losses of Shedeur and Travis Hunter. Baylor 6-3 last year. TCU 6-3. Texas Tech 6-3. How can they improve or build on what they had last year? Baylor finished 8-5 overall. TCU 9-4. Texas Tech 8-5. Kansas State was 5-4 in the Big 12. They were 4-0 outside the conference, but a couple of losses were iffy. And then you go down the line. How's West Virginia going to be with Rich Rodriguez? How's Kansas going to bounce back from a lackluster effort last year? What's Cincinnati going to do to improve? Houston going to do to improve? Utah with the disaster that they had last season. Cam Rising no longer there. Arizona had a fantastic 2023 season. Coach Bolts, they fall back to the pack. How's UCF going to be? Because the expectations that the program has had over the last decade. And then Oklahoma State, again, last year they started off 3-0, and then they went into shitter, lost 9 of their last. They lost their last 9 to finish 3-9 overall. So again, I think it's going to be some of the same players. Obviously, injuries play a role. But with all that being said, thanks to Mr. Tim Fitzgerald. Thoughts and prayers his way, obviously. Send thoughts and prayers his way as well. What time do we have? 7:50. NBA championships start tonight. Eastern Conference, Western Conference. It's Western Conference tonight. And the NHL, Panthers, Hurricanes. I'll tell you what. I will do it. I normally just do this from a regular show, but I'll do it for this one.
Turn out the lights. The party's over. They say that all good things must end. Call it a night. The party's over. And tomorrow and next next year starts the same old thing again.